Welcome to Soulful Jewish Living, Mindful Practices for Every Day, with me, Josh Feigelson. I'm grateful you're here, and I hope you benefit from our time together. I need to begin this episode with something of a trigger warning. I'm going to talk about some raw stuff, including my recent visit to the ER with my child. The story has a happy outcome, but if you're concerned at all about what feelings might arise for you right now, I want to give you permission and encouragement to listen at a time that's good for you. As we talked about in episode 6 of season 1, Hillel the Elder's age-old question, if not now, when, might really mean if now isn't a good time, you got to know when a better time could be. So take your time. So here's the whole story. A few weeks ago, my 11-year-old son, Toby, came to me and said, "Abba, I need to earn $32, a very precise amount." I asked why. Because there's this pair of sunglasses that has a built-in Bluetooth speaker above the ear, and I want to get them. They cost $40. I have 8, so I need to earn 32. I resisted the impulse to tell Toby all the reasons I thought this was a bad idea, and instead chose to admire his motivation. "We have a lot of weeding and cleaning up in the backyard to do," I told him. "Help me out on Sunday and you can earn the money." Sunday morning came and Toby and I were in the backyard cutting down overgrown bushes and stuffing organic material into big brown bags. He was a great helper, happy, enthusiastic, eager to get the job done and earn his reward. After a long day's work, Toby's friend came over for a sleepover, and they stayed up late playing Xbox and talking. I could hear some sneezing and coughing, but didn't make much of it. Usual allergies, I figured. But Monday came, and it was getting a little worse. By Monday evening, he was wheezing a lot, and his inhaler wasn't helping. By the time he was ready for bed, he was having a full-blown asthma attack, and by 10 p.m., we left for the emergency room. Now, of course, there are worse things, but watching my son hooked up to a bunch of monitors and getting albuterol through a mask in the middle of the night while I watched his O2 levels and his heart rate and waited for doctors and updates, it was rough. Sitting there exhausted at 12, 1, 2 a.m., I experienced such a range of thoughts and emotions. Gratitude for everyone taking care of Toby and that we have health insurance and speak the same language as the people taking care of my son. Fear and pity as I looked over at my beautiful boy. Pride at what a trooper he was, and tremendous anxiety at all the unknowns. How long would it take for him to be healthy again? How long until we could go home? At about 3 a.m., Toby was transferred by ambulance to the children's ward at another hospital. After we both got some sleep, they wheeled in a PlayStation and gave us the kosher room service menu, and from there on out, the kid was as happy as a pig in slop. NBA 2K, unlimited matzo ball soup, and as many brownies as he wanted. What wasn't to love? We got discharged around 8 p.m. and made it home just in time to begin the holiday of Shavuot. He was all better. Thank God. There are a few morals to this story. I should have been more mindful of my son's allergies. I also should have remembered to go straight to the hospital with the children's ward. And critically, I should really just hire people to do our yard care. But what I found my mind returning to the most is that long night in the ER, and especially the fear I felt. I'm not great on little sleep. Yet I was able to notice that when fear arose, my mindfulness practice was able to kick in a bit. It helped me not to avoid the fear, but to notice it, acknowledge it, and then ask myself, what do I want to do with this fear? Be controlled by it or make another choice? And I found that helped a lot. The Torah portion of Shelach tells one of the saddest stories in the Torah. As the Israelites are on their way to the Promised Land, Moses sends spies ahead to scout it out. They come back and share what they saw, and what they saw scared them. Nations that were mightier than the Israelites, a land that, quote, devours its inhabitants. We looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, they say, and we must have looked that way to the other people there. Hearing all of this, the people are totally deflated. The spies' fear infects the entire nation. Everyone says, screw it, let's just go back to Egypt. Hearing this, God decides that this generation just doesn't have what it takes, and that the people will have to wander for 40 years in the wilderness so that they can die out and a new generation can grow up to enter the promised land. Seriously sucky. Here too, there are some morals, but what I often think about is the lesson about fear. And I think what it's saying is not that we shouldn't be afraid at all. As we've talked about before on this podcast, fear is natural. We shouldn't feel guilty for experiencing it. The key question is how we respond to our fear. Can we create any space between the stimulus that's making us fearful and the way we choose to respond? If we can create that space, then perhaps we can acknowledge our fear and set it aside in favor of gratitude or generosity, strength or wisdom. That's what our practices are designed to help us do, to allow the negative emotions to be present, but not to lead us reactively back into Egypt, Mitzrayim, the place of narrowness and constriction. During that long night in the hospital, I found a song arising for me. It's a song we've played before on this show, after the horrible day of October 7th, 2023. The lyrics are by Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, and it's called Kol Ha'olam Kulo. The words as we have them are, all the world is a narrow bridge, and the essential thing is not to be afraid. The melody is by Rabbi Baruch Chait, and this version is sung by the Mayan Band. As I shared back in October, in Rabbi Nachman's original teaching, the words are slightly different than what we say. Rabbi Nachman actually said, "V'ha'ikar lo lehitpached klal." The essential thing is not to make ourselves afraid. And I think that, like the story of the spies, like that night in the ER, like the encounters with fear so many of us have been experiencing these last 8 months, the lesson is this. We can't honestly control whether we're afraid or not. But we do have some control over how we respond to our fear. We can make ourselves more afraid, more isolated, more closed in, or we can try to respond to fear with love, with connection, with expansiveness. That night in the hospital, singing this song helped me to deal with my fear. And perhaps listening to it now can help you too. Blessings for the journey. Know that I'm on it with you. Thank you for joining us for Soulful Jewish Living, Mindful Practices for Every Day, a production of Unpacked, a division of OpenDor Media, and the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. This episode was sponsored by Jonathan and Corey Califer and the Somerset Patriots, the Bridgewater, New Jersey-based AA affiliate of the New York Yankees. If you like this show, subscribe, give us 5 stars, and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. Check out Jewish Unpacked for everything Unpacked related, and subscribe to our other podcasts, and check out the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. Most importantly, be in touch. Write to me at josh@jewishumpacked.com. This episode was hosted by me, Rabbi Josh Feigelson. Audio was edited by Rob Pera, and we're produced by Rivki Stern. Thanks for joining us.